In today's video, I show you my 15mm paper terrain from One Page Rules. But before we get into today's video, just want to share with you what the GGGGs are for this month. Each month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this month of April of 2025, we have the Skaven Tide box that I received from the Deluxe badge from Adepticon. We also have all of the other items from the Deluxe swag bag that I received from Adepticon, minus the Skaven Tide box. And then finally, $100 going towards a crowdfunding campaign, which my Patreon supporters will be voting upon. Go ahead and use the link below to go to my Patreon page where you can get in on the chance of winning one of these gratitude gifts when Bob makes his picks this upcoming Sunday at the end of April. So if you have been following my channel, you know that I am 3D printing bunches of armies, especially to use for One Page Rules. Well, I needed to come up with a travel edition because I've been traveling quite a bit and didn't want to bring my 28mm 3D printed miniatures onto the airplane. Plus it takes up a bunch of room and space. So I wanted to come up with a portable option that wouldn't break while being on an airplane. So I started to really explore some of my options, and to be perfectly honest, I started off 3D printing the One Page Rules miniatures, STL files. I think it was 55%, I can't quite remember, but I basically shrunk it down to almost half, because at half of 28mm or 30mm, it's going to be approximately 12 to 13 millimeters for printing out these miniatures. And as you can see here, the comparison with some of the units from the Human Defense Force as well as the alien hives, they turned out pretty good. Now the reason why I didn't go this route, even though I think this is super viable and a quick way to be able to field two 2,000 point armies, I realized that I just wasn't going to get the painting done in time, even though it's a lot quicker for half of the size of these miniatures. So then I looked into options where I wouldn't need to paint up the miniatures, and a quick Google search showed me to Card Wars, which is 2D printable files that is only like $2 for both some Space Marines and some Orcs, at least some beginner sets. If you want a lot more units, you can buy more of their deluxe package for each of the armies. And I did create a custom base where I could glue these 2D miniatures onto, just to give them a little bit more heft. And I did print these on cardstock. Now you can see here I did cut them out using an X-Acto blade rather than going the easy routes by just cutting around them. But again, this was just taking too much time, so I looked for finally the option that I landed upon, which was just to grab the 2D paper miniatures from One Page Rules, which you can get if you become, I think, the lowest tier supporter on their Patreon page. Go ahead and make a comment below if this is incorrect, but I'm a top tier supporter of One Page Rules, so I have access to the STL files, but it also gives me all of the paper files too. So I went ahead and printed out 2 community lists of the Tau Empire as well as the Robot Legions, since I had never played either army and I wanted to try it out. And on this trip that I'm taking, I'm going to be showing one of my friends how to play One Page Rules. So I wanted a quick way to be able to print out these armies, and this really was the way to do it, because I was able to print out all of the units that I needed for 2,000 points for both of these army lists, and then basically in one afternoon was able to cut, glue everything together to have these 2 armies that you see here. So basically 4,000 points of units, able to field that really quickly. And again, the reason why I went with 15mm, because they are defaulted at 28mm, is so that I would have less to carry onto my carry-on bag that I needed to fit into the overhead bin. So I really needed it to be compact. Now you can see here that I did opt for the 3D printed terrain. The One Page Rules does come with faction specific terrain that you can cut out and glue together. As you can see here, they're mostly buildings and boxes and just these 2D obstacles that you can place onto the field. They work perfectly fine, but I had already printed out at 50% scale this Blackthorn Ruins from Forbidden Prints. If you haven't seen that video, make sure to check it out here where I show you how I painted these up. But basically, this is small enough that I can fit this terrain, this 3D printed terrain, into my bag in addition to all of the paper units. So super portable, and I went that route instead of sticking with the paper terrain. Also, as you can see from the individual models here, there are some that I did cut out along the outline, and this is one of the things that I really like about the 2D files from One Page Rules is that you get at least 2 different colored options for each of the armies. You actually get a blank one if you want to color it in yourself. And the version that I printed out has a really thick black outline with the intention that you're going to cut along the edge with an X-Acto blade so that you don't have any background attached to it. For example, like this guy here. Obviously, it's going to take a lot more time to cut around the outline of each of the models. So I only did that for the larger models or the specialty models or the heroes, but I left all of the base units an easier way of cutting just around, as you can see here. If I had more time, I probably would have gone ahead and 3D printed all of the bases in PLA just to give them a little bit of heft, because if I sneezed right now, it would blow all of these paper miniatures all over the place. So by 3D printing a base, I think it would give it a little bit more heft to it. But again, didn't have enough time to do that, so I am just sticking with all paper as is. And because I shrunk these miniatures down by 50%, I did the same with the One Page Rules ruler. So instead of an inch segments, these are all 1/2 inch. So obviously the board itself will need to be, rather than a 4x6, is going to be a 2x3 board. I also 3D printed out these tokens and markers so that I could keep track of which ones that I activated and the objective markers on the board. That too I shrunk down to 50% of original size. Another big advantage of shrinking things down to half the size is I can try out a bunch of different armies and print them out really quickly, just like I did here. Again, I could probably print out 2 more armies with 2,000 points each, and then I would be able to try out that army as well. So a lot of advantages to go smaller scale. So I'm going to be traveling this next week for a couple of days, and I am planning, again, like I said, teaching one of my coworkers and friends how to play One Page Rules. And I think this is a great solution in being able to have everything be compact and able to throw into a box, not worry about my miniatures getting broken or scratched up with the paint jobs. Already it is all pre-colored and is ready to pretty much go as is. What kind of solutions do you have for traveling with miniatures, especially if you're confined to just one carry-on bag? Have you ever used paper miniatures before, and what are your thoughts about that? I would love to hear them down in the comments below. Otherwise, happy printing, happy gaming. We'll see you next time.